afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. August the 13th style. We're ready to get things underway. Thanks for being with us. We're that much closer to the start of the college football season. It's so close. We can taste it. We're in the restaurant. We have made our order. They've brought the waters on the table. We're just ready. Now we're just sitting back and waiting for it all to come through. And that's what's happening here. It's great to be with you. As always, we're here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 2 o'clock. And for today, we have a good show for you. We always try to put together a nice one for you. But today, we have the Hypetrain 5.0. The more you go, the more, you keep getting players that are getting hyped up. We have the 5th edition of the Hypetrain. Bryce Underwood led the way on the train, and there's no reason to stop that train. It is continuing to chug ahead where it looks like the freshman 17-year-old who's going to turn 18 in a couple days, that train is still on the tracks and going. We've got news on the committee on infractions. A lot of people talking about that. Oh, that's a lot of fun for you, but we'll at least give you the latest on what the scuttlebutt, what is being said. I got a text this morning that I'll read to you and tell you, but as acronyms go, you got the COI, you've got the TNT, which Sherrone Moore busted out yesterday. TNT, a nice acronym. Today, not tomorrow. Yesterday, he said that. So here we are the day after talking about him saying today, not tomorrow. It can get a little confusing, but, I like slogans. I like them when they work, but we're coming off a coach in Jim Harbaugh who he had a lot of sayings. He had a lot of slogans. And now Sherrone Moore, just in this second year, and just over, a couple weeks' time, he's broken out the locked in hashtag, which means that, it's pretty obvious being locked in, but no social media for the players. They are locked in for the upcoming season. And now TNT, which is nice because, you're ready to light the wick and explode, and, you got your sticks of dynamite and all that. And then it also, anything where you could stay present. And, if Sherrone Moore was up there yesterday, and Sherrone Moore, I think most people know, spoke to the media yesterday, but if he got up there and said, we're just taking it, we're going to take it one game at a time. Everyone, we're just going to take it one game at a time. We are just going to take this one practice at a time, one meeting at a time. It's pretty cliche filled anyways, but, everybody would fall asleep and say, oh, this is the most boring coach of all time. That doesn't mean they can't be good. That would just be, it'd be pretty boring, but, put a little twist on one game at a time today, not tomorrow. I like it. I don't know if Harbaugh, or it was Juwan Howard like to say 1% better. Harbaugh would say the same thing. Maybe he was saying 2% better, but Harbaugh would like to attack each day with that enthusiasm that he talked about, and not chasing your dreams, but living them, all of those sort of things. And, the one cliche over the years that Michigan did use, the players, and you sometimes still hear it, so it's not dead. But all the way back to as far as, the oldest player that you would ever talk with or talk to, they said, when they would say, who's playing here, or they'd all say at Michigan, the expectation is for the position. And, you'll still hear that once in a while. So that's where we're at as we get closer. You get your predictions, and we talk about who's going to be playing and who the star players are and who's emerging so much, but it really has taken shape. Sherrone Moore yesterday saying that these, and I think he included today with these next 4, is really going to solidify, that two deep and where they're at right now. And, for me, as I look at this team and, if somebody asked me a question, hey, I think most popular, how do you think Michigan's going to do this year? There's a big reason to like Michigan is you look at the talent and the depth that they have across the board, the recruiting that they have done the last 2 years, and also how they have hit the transfer portal. And so you look at this team. This is a team that is going to be able to compete. They don't have that glaring hole like they had last year at the quarterback position. But so that would be it. I would say the defense and the depth overall is something, a reason or two why I would like Michigan. And they'd say, well, why wouldn't you? And I think everyone would say, well, and this might be the reason to like them too, is that you have a true freshman quarterback, and you just don't know. And they can, say, hey, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He, his parents are wonderful. One day he'll be the first overall pick. All those things could be true, and yet he still might have some growing pains in his first year. He might not be immediately the greatest thing ever. Now, yeah, you can lean on other parts of the team. And, Michigan's got what looks like, I say, great special teams. They got a great kicker, great place kicker. And, with the depth that they have, they should have good coverage teams when it comes down to that. So good special teams. And we just mentioned the defense. The defense can help you out, and a running game. So all of those things can help, as we've been, I don't know, debating, not even debating, just, pointing out all summer long that there are reasons that, Underwood, he doesn't have to be Michigan's best player in the first month or two. I think the bigger the games get later, and if they would make the playoffs, you're going to rely more and more on that quarterback position as the talent gets better and better. But can they win 2 out of the 3 first road games at Oklahoma, at Nebraska? And the third one is at USC. Can they win 2 out of those 3? If they do, man, they're really cooking. They really are cooking. Now, heck, they could still drop 2 out of those 3. And if they were clean the rest of the way, they would still be getting in. So I don't know. It's exciting to talk about and think about. Before we hit that hype train, I like to take the questions, any queries, anything out there, what's on the Michigan football fans, mind, like, Ripstar, who is in, and he is, he's given a good point here. Like the live. Yeah, like it. Why not? Why not like? Why not subscribe and like? Those are 2 really easy things to do. A little click, boom, like, boom, subscribe, and it's free, and it pays dividends. I don't know, like just looks good for the podcast, but subscribing when you get the various shows, and I usually almost every time are going at 2:00, but sometimes like Monday, Michigan had some coaches available, in the afternoon, so I wasn't going to be able to make it, and so we had to push it up to the morning, and so you were able to figure that out and know if you were subscribing to the show. So enough said there. We'll have more on subscribing and other things coming up here shortly. Scott is predicting 3 true freshmen in the 2 deep. Well, I could see even 4 in the 2 deep. Obviously, Underwood's going to start. So there's 1 true freshman in the 2 deep as a starter. Babaloa is in contention to start at left tackle, but if somebody was saying, hey, predict who's going to be the left tackle, if you're, I don't know, gambling or just for fun, it's okay. I mean, I don't know what kind of gambling you'd get, what kind of odds you would get to pick Evan Link as your left tackle, but that would be my pick over at left tackle. But Babaloa being in the 2 deep for sure. So there's 2 right there. So I just need 1 more in the 2 deep. I would go immediately to the cornerback position And I would put Shamari Earls in there. I think Barry and Jair Hill will be your two starting corners. But the depth there, Josiah Edmond, he's was he a redshirt freshman? But we're talking about true freshman. So then you go to Earls. So there's three. So that's it. A fourth you want? Four. You get. This is not quite making the too deep, but it was good. I hadn't heard his name very much. He was not in for spring, and did not. And I had not heard anything about him. It was the freshman corner from Texas. I believe he's from Texas. Jaden Sanders, and both Lamar Morgan, the secondary coach. He mentioned Sanders on Monday and how much he liked him as a player. And then yesterday, Sherrone Moore was asked about the freshmen that are, I don't know how the question was put to him, who's standing out or something. And then he mentioned Earls and he mentioned Sanders. So I don't know, just one of those guys that has not been mentioned at all. I think it's mentioned twice this week, one by the head coach, one by his position coach. So at least something, that's why you're tuning in for, nuggets like that, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Scott is saying that New Mexico will be a stiff test in the opener. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I think that Michigan's going to win that game by 40 points. And I don't know, are they favored by 40 points? Favored by 35? This game is going to be over pretty quick. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know, Scott. New Mexico on paper looks like one of the worst teams in all of college football. I think you meant to write Oklahoma will be a stiff test in week 2. And I do think that is going to be the case, but I am not worried at all about a stiff test. New Mexico will be an easy opener. New Mexico will be cannon fodder. Now, look, you don't want to be maybe too harsh against New Mexico. Hey, start going back and remember Appy State or something. We want to go back to 2007. I don't know. I don't think that anybody is with you on that one, Scott. But hey, respect every opponent. Maybe that's one of your credos. Every game, you're not going to look past anyone. You're not going to look down your nose at anyone. And so if that's what you're doing, that is fine. John is saying that the Bryce era is about to begin. Yeah, that's right. And let's say, John, he just plays 3 seasons and he starts every game. So right there, what do you got? You got 36 games just in the regular season. And then you attack 3 more on, I think, going to a bowl game. So there's 39. But then you have the Big Ten championship game and the playoffs. And then you would think at least once, I'll say twice, being conservative. So we're at 39. I'm going to say 1 Big Ten championship game at least, 40, and then 2 college football playoff appearances. And I'm expecting to win a game or 2 there. 4, we could be in store for 40 some odd starts from Bryce Underwood as we move through. Scott talking about All-Americans, and he puts Brayshawn Benny and Ernest Hausman as his Michigan All-Americans. I hadn't thought about that, but those are fine. Those are fine picks. All-Americans. I'll go with, how about Derrick Moore as an All-American? There's my pick. Let's see. JDA. One of his favorite players, Fred Moore, in a recent video, got some good separation and caught the ball. Good use of a Crippen block on Guy. Block the edge. Guy also. Yeah, Fred Moore, I don't know. Hopefully he's going to be ready. I think he's a little banged up right now, but with the wide receivers and Moore with an opportunity, I know that I'm sold that Donovan McCulley. I'm sold that he is their most talented wideout and their number one. I believe that he's wide receiver number one. But after that, I think Fred Moore might be number two, but man, you could make 3 or 4 guesses on who would be number 2 or 3 in there, and Moore would be one of those. So there you go, as that breaks down. Scott and John are just on rolls here on the feedback, so we'll take a couple more on what they have to say. Scott saying Penn State, if their offensive line is as good as the hype, that could be trouble. Yeah, look, I mean, Penn State is picked to win the Big Ten. There's a lot of experts. There's a lot of people that are picking Penn State to win it all. So, and Michigan, they might, since they don't play them this year, maybe they would play them in a Big Ten championship game. Maybe they would meet up with them in the playoffs. But heck, let's see about that. Penn State. A lot of it, when their quarterbacks, they got 2 running backs, the defense looks pretty good. So you go through there and there it is. All right. Let's get to the hype train and the committee on infractions. Sam says the more camp goes on and seeing interviews of the guys really getting excited, everyone is sleeping on this team. I don't think any Michigan fans are sleeping on this team. I think most Michigan fans expect Michigan to win 10 games and to make the college football playoff. I think most Michigan fans feel great that Bryce Underwood is going to be the starting quarterback. And I think most Michigan fans expect Bryce Underwood to be very good as a true freshman quarterback, and they are enjoying the ride. I think most Michigan fans expect U of M's O-line to take a step forward, and for U of M to have a great 1-2 punch in their running game. Now, with the wide receivers that we just talked about and the tight ends, we know these guys, let's see it. Yeah, McCulley, 1,000 yards. Yeah, Marlon Klein. Nobody outside the football, practice has seen Marlon Klein as a pass. Let's see it. Let's see it from Fred Moore, from Semaj Morgan. We got a lot to see when it comes down to a passing game. But I do think if you're talking about, if I could rephrase what you're saying, Sam is saying everyone is sleeping on this team. I think nationally, Michigan is being looked at as a sleeper team. You have, and I think it's completely understandable. Most people, when you look at a team, the first thing you look at is you're like, all right, well, what's the quarterback situation? And Michigan's quarterback situation is okay. They've got a great quarterback, but he's a freshman and then a true freshman, and they're just throwing him out there. Maybe he would have earned it anyways and everything else. But so immediately folks are going to be skeptical. I think it's hard. I've said this now, 100 times, but every single Michigan fan, Underwood and people that are into it on a daily basis, they are following recruiting and they're following every single word that is said about Michigan. Well, Underwood's the greatest recruit ever. He's right down the road in Michigan's own backyard, and he's playing the position that Michigan was the worst at in the country last year. So everybody is fired up. And I'm not telling anybody to take a step back or tap the brakes, because there's no reason to do that. Because maybe Underwood is different than all of these 5 stars or the rare ones that just jump in there and he's the greatest of all time. Now, I understand why anybody outside of Ann Arbor would look and say, well, Michigan's a year away. When you have a talented quarterback like this, the way they've been recruiting with Sherrone Moore, they've been doing really good, but a year away from everybody just being like, oh yeah, Michigan's the one. So to me, that is very understandable. And so I don't think people are down on them. I think they just look and, they saw a team that was 5-5 at one point last year. And, they finished up nice, and, They do a great job now against Ohio State, but are you putting them in front and picking them to win the Big Ten? I mean, I don't know. When you're a fan, Michigan's a nice sleeper pick, but are you really thinking that Michigan should win the Big Ten this year? Are you really feeling like, the odds I saw, plus 200 that Michigan makes the college football playoff. So that is not, when you're our plus 200, you are not looked at as a team that I don't even know if that would be likely. I mean, so they're like one of those, you've got, you're probably 10 teams there. What's Michigan ranked about 50? I mean, they're like right on a cusp. But it all could change really quick. And if Michigan goes out and goes down on the road and beats Oklahoma and Bryce Underwood looks good, and it's the narrative switches to watch out for Michigan. They got a precocious young freshman, and for the next 3 years, the college football world should be put on notice with what Sherrone Moore is doing. But yeah, I know everyone's sleeping on the team. And those are the three teams: Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State in front of Michigan. Andrew talking about the hammer that we're going to get to coming up. $14 million fine and 2-game more suspension. I don't know when he says looks like. Maybe there's some news that it's coming out with that when it comes down to it. So the hype train, got that.
And what will your legacy be, do you think?
Bryce Underwood.
A couple Heismans and at least one natty.
Couple Heismans and one natty. That'll put you on the hype train. That'll hype you up. There he is coming down the track. So Bryce Underwood has led the way, and he continues to be hyped. Let's go. But today's 5th edition of the Hype Train, I'm going to put Derrick Moore right on there. Michigan has Cole Sullivan. Cole Sullivan is definitely being hyped up. We have seen him for the last 2 spring games, and he has looked amazing just in these spring games. But then out in Vegas, Sherrone Moore said he's going to put the college world on notice, or he's going to show the college football fans, something like that. I mean, and then yesterday he said it again about Cole Sullivan. So I feel great about Cole Sullivan being on this hype train. McCulley, he's got the number 1 jersey. He's the number 1 playmaker for Michigan on offense, certainly the number 1 pass catcher. He deserves to be on there. Semaj Morgan, when Jordan Marshall said he's balling out, that was enough for me to put Semaj Morgan. I'm a little biased on Semaj Morgan. I think he's better than most of you think he is. I think Semaj Morgan is the sleeper explosive player on this offense. I just saw those flashes as a freshman in the championship season, ball in hand, sifting through the defense, scoring touchdowns, saw him on the incredible punt return of the Big Ten championship game. And then, last year, you got to have a quarterback throwing you the ball. Didn't have that. So I can see a big year in part of that. And heck, it is I'm the conductor of this hype train. That's why I had Morgan in there. And then Derrick Moore, he deserves the hype. He could be a first-round draft pick. He could be an All-American. He could be he's going to be a captain on this team. You listen to him talk. You love to hear what he has to say. And look at this picture of him. Hype train, Derrick Moore, 5.0. There you go. So the Committee on Infractions, and we know that the time is coming where we're going to see a decision. I got a text early this morning that said, and this is from somebody that it's never steered me wrong. Heard from enough folks to believe this is decision week when it comes down to the committee on infractions. So we are just waiting around. I am going to stay with the same way and the same approach that I have. I think that when this comes out, if Sherrone Moore, I say whether you believe he should be suspended for 2 games or not, if they accept that he is going to sit out the Central Michigan and Nebraska game, that is a big win for Michigan. I would think that they would, tack out another game and make it the first 3 and try penalizing him for not letting him coach against Oklahoma. But look, I hope that's not the case. I'm just thinking how they're really going to look. They are going to look soft. They're going to get pushed around if that's the way it's going to go. That Michigan gets to pick the games that he sits out. That is a huge win for Michigan. And then, of course, if they don't look don't look at the past and do anything, and they look to the future, and Michigan's eligible, which is what everyone expects, then all of the chatter from the fans and everything about, you big cheer, it's like, okay, they went through it. They had to sit out. They went around little bylaw, and then they got a big penalty, which was Jim Harbaugh having to sit out 3 games right in the middle of a gigantic penalty. But that's it. And then Sherrone Moore for the knee-jerk reaction of him deleting the text. That's why he has to do what he has to do. But if that's all it is, and the fine somebody mentioned, then it's a win for Michigan, even though that you're going to have people still bark at it. But that stuff, it will be put in its proper place then. That it was always way bigger. I mean, right in the middle of an undefeated season, everybody just going crazy. But if it ends up in the end where it is, that's not that bad. And I think Michigan, they are able to then just look down at everybody and say, yeah, I mean, you guys wasted an awful lot of your life, coming, for the champs, and you got nothing, to show for it. So, I do think that they'll take Connor Stallions and shoot him into outer space, and, harsh for sure for Stallions to be jettisoned into outer space. But is that going to affect Michigan football? No, isn't. Tough for Stallions to be, flying it towards the sun and everything and, be out of here. But nobody really cares about that. People will, I think they will, if they tar and feather Harbaugh. People aren't going to like that because people love Michigan football fans, and they should. They love Jim Harbaugh. He delivered a national championship. But if they're not taking any games away, which nobody thinks they are, except the rival fans, and if they're not doing anything punitive in the future, then that is another win for Michigan. And if we're talking about a fine, and they'll be like, well, it's the largest, who cares? So that's it. That's how I feel about it, that this can be, got to wait and see what the final verdict is. But if it looks like what is being talked about, then this decision will be a big win for Michigan. A win. I keep saying big. It'll be a win. And that decision could happen this week. At least now, that's what people are talking about. We'll see if anybody has any thoughts on everything that I've said. And that's where it's at. Andrew is talking about looks like the hammer. Yeah, this is not a massive hammer at all. A fine and the original 2-game suspension. Look, if it's just the 2-game suspension, that is a big win for Michigan, because they will have just taken Michigan's proposal and they will have just accepted it. And, then that's just, that is a big win for Michigan when it comes down to that. All right, let's see. If Michigan beats Ohio State, they can go to the Big Ten championship game. Sure. I know there's, if Michigan's going to the Big Ten championship game, then they're going to the playoffs. And so all of the teams that got the buys, the teams that won last year did not. So that doesn't automatically, I know a lot of people, nope. I would rather have the buy the week, the other teams that are playing in the conference championships and then play that first week rather than have the buy by winning the Big Ten championship. I'd take a Big Ten championship. It doesn't mean, especially since they're reseeding this year, that, if you could just pick, what you wouldn't want is to go to the Big Ten championship game and lose it. Because then you get no bye on either side, right? Then you would be, playing all the games. You don't want that. So you want a bye in there. That's the only thing. And I would take a Big Ten championship. That would be nice. Cut from a different cloth. It's always good to see him. He's talking about Semaj Morgan. Says he has to be good. He got a lot of time while Harbaugh was the coach and Semaj was a freshman. So that means he's good. I haven't seen it yet. But to make the field as a freshman means something. When you say that you haven't seen it yet, you watched the championship season. Did you watch him scoring those touchdowns where they would just throw the ball over to him and then you didn't really see what was going on? And he was sifting through the defense and finding his way and making cuts, and then boom, he was in the end zone, touchdown. Did you see him scoring, multiple touchdowns? Did you see him making the longest run of the Big Ten championship game? He said, I haven't seen it yet. Yes, you have. You did see it. Maybe it just goes to show you that you forget. Not everybody kind of forget, and then what happens last is what you remember. And last season, it was miserable for the Michigan offense. I don't have to rehash it. It was miserable, and the wide receivers were part of that. Everything got dragged down. And yeah, wasn't he on the fake play? You had a 5'10" wide receiver thrown to the backup quarterback on the trick play. I didn't like that. So yeah. So you have seen it. But it just goes to show that's kind of where Michigan fans are at. Mr. Martini would rather have the 2 natties and 1 Heisman. Yeah, I would too. They tried to make me go to rehab, but I said no. That's old, what's her name? I forget. That's a good song though. Ooh. If we beat Oklahoma, will Dennis do a chicken wing and cartel Coke special? You got it, Rip. If Michigan beats Oklahoma, chicken wings and cane sugar Mexican Cokes on the air. That'll happen. That's what's happening. All right, couple more here. So that's down. What happens? Ooh, a wing eating. I like eating, obviously, and but I'm not a big food eating contest. I like wings. I had some this week. Where were they from? Buddies. They weren't bad. Rip is up to speed on things, says Jason Denegal starting for San Diego State. I saw that. And Orgy is starting for UNLV. I did not see that. But that's the good thing, Rip, about week 0. You've got that Kansas State-Iowa State game, and then you have UNLV playing on that week 0 too. So that'll be one I want to check out. Mark says winning the Big Ten doesn't feel as great as getting to the Final Four in basketball. Football will be there soon. Winning the Big Ten doesn't feel as great as getting to the Final Four in basketball. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the tournament's everything. Almost everything. And you would rather... the Fab Five didn't win anything. but they went to the championship game for 2 years in a row. We get that. Football, I think it's still, will there be a day where you just kind of turn up your nose and be like, who cares? Maybe you could ask Oregon last year. They won won the Big Ten and then got ousted in the first round. Are they sitting around being like, hey, we were the champs? Probably not. I would rather win one game in the college football playoff than win the Big Ten championship. That's not the Final Four, but I think that's where we're at. Amy Winehouse, there you go. Football is king. Yeah, we're all rooting for Semaj. That's what it's going to be. So, yeah, we're that much closer. You want to be like Sherrone Moore saying, let's just, stay in the present. Let's not worry about tomorrow. We're football fans. We're not down to practice. We can't, it doesn't do us any good when it comes to football to stay in the present. We are looking towards the opener. We are getting our plans together, all of those sort of things. So, that's the way it goes. Thanks so much for joining us. I would like to tell everyone, not just, you like the live. That's great. Subscribe to the podcast. That's great too. But come join us over on the Maize and Blue Review. This is what we're doing, except all day long and all night long. I'm more of a morning person than real late night poster and mixing it up with Michigan fans. An early riser. But we're talking about the season and everything that goes on in college football. It's a lot of fun. If you've never been involved in a situation where you're like the Maize and Blue Review and you're thinking, maybe I want to up my game for this upcoming season. Maybe, I've tailgated with a grill and, brought a couple cold ones, but now I'm getting a bocce ball set and I'm going over to the golf course. I'm joining up the Maize and Blue Review. This is going to be a great Michigan season. And I'm going to have a front row seat for it all. Go to on3.com and join up and push that button. Click the Maize and Blue Review. We'll see you over there. It's a great time. I guarantee you'll love it. Take it from me. I'll talk with you on Friday. We'll be that much closer to the season. Thanks so much for joining us. And until then, have yourself a great day. Hope it cools off a little bit. Whew.